Oh yeah, dude, I learned how to gut a deer before I knew what an investment bank was. I also have the 2018 San Francisco record for king salmon. But they're terrible for the environment. Oh, uh-oh. That's okay, it looks like a fuse broke. Do you mind pulling that from the outlet? I'm not sure how good our insurance is, but it's probably not that good, so. Alright, great. But yeah, so I love trucks. Trucks are super fun. They're really bad for the environment. So it's like, well, maybe I should stop doing them, but then you look at EVs and they're like, they don't let you open the hood, which I guess makes sense because if you touch the wrong thing, it turns into a Slim Jim. But it's just like, it's an appliance, which I get is like from a product direction sense, makes a lot of sense. It's a good UX for most people, but you don't get to do dumb stuff with it. So I was like, well, how do I reconcile all these things? There's a company called Ren, which I have no vested interest in, but I think they're pretty cool because they have an API for carbon offsets. Every car since the 90s has also had this little doohickey. If you have a car, you should check for it. It's called an onboard diagnostic or OBD port. And so I said, ooh, what if I stick a microcontroller in there? And that's what this is. And it read telemetry off of my car and it hit the API for carbon offsets. So that's what I built. There's a few challenges. One is I didn't want to use GPS for tracking. GPS consumes a lot of power. It's also kind of weird if you're like I made this open source, and it'd be weird if you had a way to like track people using it. Also, everything is easy with GPS, and I was really just trying to kill time and not do my real job. So I decided to implement this without GPS. I didn't want connectivity because when the car is off and the only connectivity that really works for kind of like broad areas is cellular, and some ones draw a lot of power. OBD doesn't really provide a lot of power, it gives you 5 volts. Older EVDs don't have really OBDs don't have really standardized telemetry off of the port. So you kind of got to get to like real low-level primitives if you want it to work across all cars. Modern cars will give you all kind of crazy shit off the diagnostic port, but if you go to like the early 90s, it's unclear what data you're actually going to get out of it. And finally, constant power. I didn't want to draw power when the car was off because it would kill the battery, so it had to be a microcontroller, which actually kind of also included these constraints because there's only so much you can do with low-power microcontroller. So what was the solution? This math is not nearly as impressive as the sugar math, but it was basically just you pull like the lowest level speed and position data from the car as you can, and you just do some basic calculus. so you're inferring velocity and position from kind of like where the wheels are pointing. The position data matters less because I'm really just trying to get speed at any given time. And there's actually a database, the EPA, I believe, it's either National Highway or EPA maintains a database of like every car that's been homologated in the United States and their listing. Like that's an official government, fueltiming.gov right there. So originally this actually, real fast. Connectivity, I solved it when if the power is on and you park next to a Wi-Fi network, it'll push up the data that's cached. So it's caching like very, very like small amounts of telemetry, so you can go for a few thousand miles without having to connect. What was I? Oh yeah, so originally I thought, well, maybe I should call the fueleconomy.gov and get the mileage based on the vehicle, but then going back to making it as robust as possible, the one thing you do have to hard code is your miles per gallon. So the tools I use, Particle, which is this little microcontroller here, which we do have a vested interest in, and they co-sponsor this. So anyone that demoed, I have a dev kit for you. It didn't arrive in time, so I'll get your mailing address from Yitong and I'll send it to you. So this basically runs embedded C, like talking dozens of lines of code, and it hits the Ren API and just buys you offsets. So that's my auto carbon offsetter. my friend who's much more successful than me is actually building a fully electric AC Cobra, so that's the next level. But yeah, questions? Yes?
I've done zero research about this. Do you have opinions about, like, are carbon offsets real? Are there like ones that
yeah. How spicy do you want to get?
I
Okay, max spicy is, here's my view on carbon offsets. It either has economic value or it doesn't. If it doesn't have economic value, then this is a moot conversation. If it has economic value, then it's going to get gamed and there's going to be a lot of fraud because it's very reliant on self-reporting. Like any system, any market that's based on self-reporting that has economic value becomes fraud. Like that is a universal law. So I didn't build this, but we're going to build these instead.
So kind of with that in mind, do you find yourself being like, you know what, I was going to take the Prius out today for the 3-hour drive down to Beiser, but you know what, I'm offsetting my carbon. Why don't I just take the truck?
The truck only works like half the time. Any other questions? Yes.
It seems like a really clever way to reverse engineer how much gas you're burning. Is there any easy way to just get a measurement of how much gas goes into the car?
Yeah, so if you have a modern enough car, the OBD port, so post 96 it's OBD2, will actually give you fuel readings, which is what I started with. But then some friends had older vehicles and they don't have those fuel readings, so that's why I went to like velocity and position. But yeah, like it's publicly documented.